So last week we began our worship series, The Journey to Bethlehem and Beyond, with the question, do you really want to go? Which to me seems to be a logical place for the beginning of any journey, be it a business trip or a vacation or a trip to visit family. Do you really want to go? And if we're honest, the answer is sometimes no, we don't want to go. And with the possible exception of business trips, there is always the option of not going or staying home or staying put, as the case may be, with our journey to Bethlehem. Oh, sure, we all want to see the baby Jesus. But what about that grown-up man, Jesus, the Christ? God in human form, the one who challenges us and takes us to task, who wants to change us, to transform us into the whole people God created us to be. Do we really want to go there? Do we really want to meet that Jesus? Now, my assumption is that since you are here this morning, your answer is yes. So today I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about how we go about preparing ourselves for this journey to meet the one who really does have the power to make all things new, including us. A journey which, if we are open to it, will not leave us unchanged. But as they ask in the Acting in Faith skit, what does it mean to be prepared? What does being prepared look like? You know, in my earlier years, I was a bit more OCD than I am now. Okay, I was a lot more OCD. But as my friend Amy back there says, better living through chemistry has helped me with that. But back in the day, before the chemistry part, I was the consummate trip planner. I would begin months in advance planning our itinerary, where we'd go, the places we would stay, what attractions we would see along the way, or once we got there. I'd go to Barnes & Noble's and I'd buy maps and travel guides. I'd contact the visitors bureau of the place we were headed and have them send me a package just full of information and brochures about all the things we could do once we arrived, all the possibilities. And I'd read and I would plan and I had it down to the smallest detail. It was more than a little over the top, I'll admit that. And about the only thing I didn't plan for was rest and relaxation. But then a week or two before the trip was actually to commence, I would start making lists of everything we needed to take. If we were going camping, all the camping gear we need, clothing, shoes, toiletries, you name it, it went on a list. And then I would start laying it out on the bed in the guest room, at least a week in advance. So then when it came time to pack, everything was in order, and there it was. So did I mention that I was a bit sick? No worries though. Thanks to meds, maturing, and much more important things to worry about these days, I'm much better. In fact, these days I do good to make a list the day before. And I'm usually up until the wee hours of the morning packing. And I almost always forget something that I intended to bring with me. But in thinking about how I used to over-prepare, I started wondering about this Advent and Christmas journey we're embarking on, and how or what it might look like if I were to take that same time and effort to prepare to meet the Christ child of Bethlehem that I used to put into packing or planning for any other trip I would take. What might that preparation look like? And what would be involved? So going with that whole journey metaphor, something we're very comfortable with here at Journey of Faith, it seems to me that our journey to Christmas is twofold. First, we need to open a path in our hearts, a path through the wilderness, as John the Baptist suggests. A path that will lead us to Bethlehem and the Christ child. And, secondly, we need a plan for how we're going to get there. Now, I've had the privilege of traveling to the Holy Land many years ago, and I've seen the wilderness that John the Baptist is describing in this morning's passage. And honestly, it's nothing like I'd imagined. It's actually a desert. Even so, I still think of the wilderness in terms of an overgrown mountainside that probably comes from years of hiking in some of our nation's incredible national parks. And since I'm the one preaching, that's the image of the wilderness I'm going to go with this morning. Now, you can choose whichever image you want, whatever works best for you, but I'm going with what I like. So, yes, the wilderness he talked about was a desert, but just for this morning, picture with me a mountainside, full of brambles and overgrowth and trails that are barely even visible, if visible at all. As I said, in my younger years, I logged many a mile hiking up and down the mountains of our national parks. And I have to tell you, those hikes, even when I was young and in much better shape, were never easy ones. In fact, if you wanted to experience the breathtaking vistas or see the most spectacular waterfalls you could imagine, you almost always had to walk for miles up the mountain to get there, and then miles back down again. And at the end of the day, your feet hurting, all you wanted to do was just stop. Yet as exhausting as it often was, the payoff was always worth the effort. The nice thing, though, was that the trails were generally well worn and marked well, and it was easy to follow. So the chances of getting lost were very slim. But when I think about the path to Bethlehem, that's not what I envision at all. Instead, I see wilderness paths that are not well marked or easily traveled. I see paths that are dense and overgrown and in need of clearing if we're to reach our destination and not end up lost in the wilderness along the way, not ever really making it to Christmas. The exact nature of those paths are different for each one of us here. Some of us need machetes to clear out those vines of bitterness, or maybe an axe to chop down those trees of disappointment or resentment. Or maybe it's the ivy of envy or self-righteousness or self-centeredness that threatens to choke us out along the way. Some of us need to take a shovel on our journey. We need to fill in those low places of depression and self-doubt, of addiction or sorrow, or whatever it is that keeps us from experiencing the life-giving grace of God in Jesus Christ. For others, a bulldozer is more in order, because we need to knock down those mountains of hurt and anger, and we need to make level those places where unforgiving spirits are hidden. Whatever your wilderness looks like, if you're anything like me, there are paths there that need clearing. And there are high and low places that need leveling out if we're ever going to make it to Bethlehem and the promised Messiah that awaits us there. If we're going to be ready to receive the Christ child, for most of us, there's lots of work that needs to be done. But we're also in need of a plan. Because if we don't have a plan, then it's so easy to get distracted from our destination. With all that's happening this time of year, it's easy to lose sight of the true meaning of Christmas. With Santa Claus and silver bells and Frosty the Snowman and the trail of lights, the endless gatherings of family and friends and the frenzy of gift buying, as we seek to make sure no one's forgotten. It's so easy to to lose our focus, to forget where we're actually going. So again, I think we need a plan. We need to be intentional about keeping Christ at the center of all that we're doing in this season. And keeping Jesus as our focus as we seek to navigate our way through the wilderness to that manger of Bethlehem. In one way, I might suggest that we do that is through journaling. Now, I have to be honest. This is a spiritual discipline that I totally stink at. I am not good at journaling. In fact, I'm really not good at all of the spiritual disciplines, but that's another story. But I'm going to really try this Advent season to take time every day to reflect on what the season is really about and on those things that may be blocking my own path to the Christ. And again, I'm not good at it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try hard. And I invite you to join me in doing so. And what if we viewed the time we spend journaling each day as a kind of rest stop on the way to Christmas? A time of respite, of slowing down and reflecting that both re-energizes us and also helps to refocus us on the real meaning of the season. I think if we can do this, we'll find the journey easier and more meaningful than ever, as it will help prevent us from simply meandering our way through the season, maybe missing our ultimate destination altogether. So what do you say? Are you with me? Shall we try this journaling thing together? I'm not good at it. You don't have to be good at it. Just sit down and jot down a few ideas each day. And while you're at it, this would also be a great time to reflect on what gift you'd be willing to bring the Christ child. Maybe an open heart, a willing spirit perhaps, or maybe your very being. Thanks be to God for John the Baptist, who reminds us that we do indeed need to prepare for the journey to Bethlehem, that we need to make straight